All right, hey everybody again. Just to continue off from the last video, we're going to move on to charts next. So just to make a point of this though, to connect the pivot tables, I am going to go ahead and remake one. And just to remind everybody, if you press Control, Shift, and then right arrow, from when you choose at the very corner to the left, and you press down, that's going to give you everything. And then we can move on to pivot table. And we're going to put this on a new worksheet. And last time we showed revenue by country ever, but maybe we want to like focus on something else this time. Let's say product category for the rows. So right now we have hoverboard accessories, apparel, and the hoverboards themselves. And maybe we want to get like an annual profit. So let's put the months into the columns and use the profit for the values. Now this gives us a good flow of how things are doing across the year. If you wanted to make it even more interesting, you could maybe even put age group as a filter. And maybe like we're really curious about how much sales are for seniors 65 and up for whatever the reason. Now we can take this table and if we go back to insert and we look for charts, we can make a chart based off of the material. So this just gives like a quick idea of like how much money was made among the months ever for each category type. And maybe you just want to focus on one category. Like maybe I just want to focus on hoverboards, right? It's perfectly acceptable. And maybe I just want to focus on like a series of months as well. So let's say beginning of the year, January to maybe around May before the summer starts. We have that focus as well, and you can change it to whatever you want in terms of the age group since that filter is in place, and get a different idea for each age group. So perfectly acceptable. It's a good way of eyeing things in your pivot table like another way. And honestly, a visualization makes it much easier for someone that's less technical to understand what's going on with profits or whatever else that you're trying to convey. Our brain seems to have, your brain can have a much easier time sometimes when it comes to these sorts of things. But let's switch over to another table set just to continue off this. So right now we have D&D accessories and how much a company is making a profit off this for the year. So let's go ahead and do what we did before. We're gonna go insert. We have recommended charts, and there's a variety of charts we can choose from. But let's start with this really quick. Now, like before, there's a lot that we can play around with here. First being like, what type of name do we want to give it? So let's say Tabletop Co. Monthly profit. But we can change so much more about this. So again, if we want to focus on a specific item, we can go ahead and do this. If we want to, well, and maybe let's get rid of annual title because that gives us a better feedback of what's going on in the months in comparison to everything else. Completely changes the graph, no? So there is a series of things we can do here. So right now, the graph is arranged a specific way where at the bottom we have like the months, and then we have the accessories at the represented by the bars. But we could switch these, and now we have the accessories at the bottom, and this just shows every month for that accessory specifically. And it reads a completely different way. No, this is more of like a time series. It's a little bit more straightforward. But say that we want to look at this a different way. First, let's just copy this over to a new sheet, just because you can select move chart to move it somewhere else. Say, chart sheet. Boop. But we want to maybe we want to look at it in a few other ways, right? And that works perfectly fine with what we have as well. So you go ahead and select it once again, and let's look at the options that we have here. We could show it in bar chart form. Let's switch to all charts because that might be better. So we can show it in the clustered bar chart that we had earlier. We could show the spikes through scatter plot form to see like how like the trends that are going on within the year. And let's go ahead and take that away again, and you can see the ebb and flow of things going on. That's pretty useful. And if we wanted to, we could even provide like specific information about it. So we could say like, hey, I want to look at like the general amount of money that's going on with each of them. It's very hard to see here, but maybe if we took away some of the current accessories in place, maybe we only want to focus on, hey, the character sheets. Or no, actually, let's focus on the miniatures and the dice sets and accessories. If we swipe that down, whatever, now we have like a little bit more visibility with what we want to look at in terms of this current chart. No, so a few other things we can do though is we can mess with the coloring as well. This is just a concept of the style. And there's like a variety that you can choose from. It really comes down to preference. You don't necessarily want to have it too flashy or too minimalistic. Problem with having it too flashy over is obviously it's going to be a little bit more distracting, and you're trying to make a point with these types of graphs. If you're trying to show this to someone else, but at the same time, you also want to have enough information over to like properly show what's there. And you can also choose a more monochromatic color set. Although, in general, it's easier to go with a colorful set whatever because it distinguishes the different lines that you're trying to, like the different categories in this case. Makes it much easier to see. But a few other things you can do as well is, so this legend shows us the categories. If we didn't have a table like here, and we had this on a different sheet or whatever, we could include, yeah, a table of its own for here. And these are movable, by the way. You can stretch them and shift them as you want at your leisure. Maybe you want to show trends too, specifically for dice sets and accessories, for example. And it'll have a bit of a trend line based off of the entire year that's going on. Let's go ahead and take away some of these. Get rid of the table. And yeah, this I feel shows like a good amount of information. So, like I mentioned though, there is definitely a variety of tables and charts that you can use to show your information. If you wanted to, for example, let's copy this and like put this here. So we have one chart showing just 2 accessories, and then we go back and we make something else. And forgive my mouse, it's having some issues today for some reason. I need to look into that. But let's hit recommended charts again. All charts. So, yeah, a line chart's going to give you a good way of viewing trends over time. And bar charts are great for comparing categories. But we have other options as well. If we want to kind of compare everything together, we could choose a pie chart. And then we have like a different form of bar chart. Some of these aren't necessarily going to be used in a lot of situations, but if we wanted to group like specific things together, a histogram might be useful if we wanted to split it up in specific ways. And a box whisker chart would be useful in a situation where you're looking for like that, yeah, where most things sit, and where like maybe like if there's like an outlier or two in terms of like a specific like week of sales or something that's like totally out of line with everything else, you would maybe pull one of these up. But let's stick to the basic ones. I'm just gonna pull out like a pie chart, and I'm just gonna show that they can be visualized in different ways, whatever. I'm not gonna say that all of these are better though. This, I mean, it looks nice, but this tells information in a little bit of an easier, more straightforward way. So I'm just gonna boop that out. Again, why don't we copy this over here just because for whatever the reason maybe we want to kind of display our information in different ways. And let's filter it again. And this is specifically for miniature paints, whatever, but it gives an idea of like which month whatever is having like the most profit overall. It has 5 million value in comparison to, let's say, March, which we only got 450,000, 58,000. And then let's get one more graph just for kicks. Insert one more time. recommended charts, and then maybe like the bar chart, like I mentioned, ever would be a solid choice. Again, there is different ways of showing this. The 3D ones honestly aren't usually used. Like I said, they don't really help all that much in comparison to the more traditional ones, but this, depending on how you want to play it with the categories, whatever, maybe you'd want to show it in that way, or this I feels like a pretty good representation. Let me copy it over here. Get ready. I'll total it again. And yeah, so like maybe this you want to show like a more specific trend with the miniatures and dice whatever, but you want to have a larger general amount of sales in terms of all of the categories whatever. That might be like a good way of balancing it out when you're showing this in at work or something else. So yeah, I think this covers a decent amount of what you look for in terms of like showing for yourself and showing someone else different ways of like showing the information. We're gonna move on to a little bit of data cleaning next, and then we're gonna, like everything else that ever, use AI tools to make our lives easier with all this. See you in the next one.